Okay, so what we're doing for Zoom class today is we're just going to review for our test for chapter 27, which is going to be on Monday. Our final exam is going to be on Tuesday. The only thing on the final exam is coding problems, okay? So you guys are all great coders. I don't see any issues. And remember, assignments must be turned in. I'm given until 9 o'clock Wednesday morning, unless you contacted me and we've made other arrangements, because we have students with COVID right now. So of course I need to be lenient some with that, but I don't want to have to be checking 2 modules for 5 days. So if you are behind in your assignments, please get caught up and get that in. Okay, so I'm going to go over some true and false questions, and for these, I'm just going to read them, okay? Okay, so the first question is, the official guidelines for coding and reporting are updated every year. True or false?
That's true.
That is true. Okay. I'm going to try to read this one slowly. When 2 or more diagnoses equally meet the definition for principal diagnosis, either one can be selected as the principal diagnosis. When you have 2 diagnoses and they're equal, you can use either as a principal diagnosis. You can. It's true. So if somebody comes in and they have, oh, I'm trying to think of something now and I can't think of one off the top of my head. Let's say cough and runny nose. They're both a principal diagnosis because he has cough and a runny nose, and that's all that's being diagnosed. So therefore, you can put cough or runny nose first and the other one second. Hi, Kedra. We're doing review for our test that's on Monday on chapter 27. That's what we're doing right now, and I'm just doing verbal, excuse me, I'm just doing some true and false verbally with you guys, and then we're going to do the coding problems. Okay, so the third one is, it is unacceptable to assign codes in the inpatient setting to diagnose, let me start that again. It is unacceptable to assign codes in the inpatient setting to diagnoses that are documented as being possible, suspected, or likely. What it's saying, it is unacceptable if you're in an inpatient setting to assign diagnoses that are probable, suspected, or likely. Now stop and think about it. You're going into the hospital and they're thinking possible stroke, possible pneumonia, possible this, possible that. So you're inpatient and you're having these tests run. They don't really know what's wrong with you, right? So in that instance, it is okay for you to have a probable, suspected, or likely, because you're in the hospital, you're inpatient. They're running tests. They're trying to figure out what's wrong with you. Are they going to wait to bill your hospital bill until they know for sure what you have? They're not going to do that. Now, when they discharge you, are they going to say possible this, possible that, unlikely this, probable? No, they have to know what's wrong with you before they can discharge you, right?
Right.
That's most of the time. Sometimes, it may not work out that perfectly, but most of the time it works out like that. Okay? So if you're inpatient, it is acceptable for a suspected, probable, or likely. So just make sure that you're looking at your wording. An inpatient or an outpatient, you're going to be able to tell with your wording. Okay. The next one is, the American Hospital Association is responsible for the development of the ICD-10 PCS.
True. True. No. False.
No, it's not. I'm going to give you the answer in the next true-false question. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is responsible for the development of the ICD-10 PCS. That is true. So the Centers for the American Hospital Association is not responsible for the development of the ICD-10. CMS is responsible. So on number 4, you're going to be doing a false because the American Hospital Association isn't. But then in number 5, it gives you the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is responsible for the development of ICD-10, and that's true. Okay, the ICD-10 PCS has a 7-character alphanumeric code structure. True or false? So your ICD-10, it always starts with a what? A letter. And then it's numbers behind it, right? So the ICD-10 PCS has a 7-character alphanumeric code structure. That is true. So those are going to be our true false for our exam. Melissa, I know that you missed some, but of course I'm recording this and you can go back. All that we're doing is we are reviewing for our test on Monday for chapter 27, simply because we don't have long in this chapter and we're kind of dipping our toe in. And I don't want anybody to feel stressed that you don't understand everything in this chapter, because when we wrap back around and we do ICD-10, you're going to be getting this again. Remember, we talked about we wish they would have put that with the ICD-10, but they didn't do that. So we're just doing a review because I want to make sure everybody does well on their exam. Because, you know, usually we don't do as an intensive review. So do you guys have your ICD-10 manuals out?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to do, let me see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coding scenarios on your exam, and we're going to go through those. Now, I'm just, you guys see, I have written all over and mapped and wrote notes because, you know, that's how I code. That's how I do it. I'm highlighting something, but we're going to take it slow. Remember, I'm not expecting you to do a lot about of this. We're going to talk about each step together, okay? So don't get frustrated if you don't understand, because we're reviewing the questions now, so you will understand when we get the test. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you guys can see this?
Yes.
Okay. Patient is admitted with epigastric pain due to acute pancreatitis without necrosis or infection. Okay, that's a whole mouthful, right? This is changing from when we were doing our CPT book, whenever it was, what are we doing? Well, this is, remember, why we're doing it. What's wrong with the patient? Well, with this patient, epigastric pain due to acute pancreatitis without necrosis or infection. So let's just talk about it. What do you guys think that we're going to need to look up in our index?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm
The epigastric pain.
Well, we could go epigastric pain, but what's the epigastric pain due to?
Acute pancreatitis.
Acute pancreatitis. Okay, who knows what acute means?
Often.
Well, acute means, well, and this is something funny, like acute void comes and goes very quickly. Acute means it comes on suddenly and then it leaves quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Where chronic is long lasting. So with diagnosis codes, acute and chronic are going to be words that you're going to need to know. So that's how I remember what acute means versus chronic. So let's look up pancreatitis. And remember, our index is in the front of our ICD-10 and not in the back.
Page 375.
Yep, page 375. It's on the last column. Y'all see pancreatitis?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you kind of go down, and do you see where it says acute?
Yes,
What does it say in those parenthetical notes right there?
without necrosis and infection.
So does that match without necrosis
No.
or infection?
It would be with infected, huh? It'd be the next
No,
one.
our
No?
scenario says without, doesn't it?
Without.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Without. Okay.
Well, that's okay. We're good. That's all right. So it says K8591. So then what do we do next? We're going to go to our tabular, and this time we're going to be looking for the letters and not necessarily the letter first and then the numbers. So we're going to go to the K's. So we're going to be looking K85. Oh, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. So if you go to 982, you're going to see K85.9. Let me know when you're there because I want to tell you about this big red dot.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay, when you guys get there, you're going to see a big red dot in front of K859. That is a stop sign. That means stop. You cannot use code K85.9. But if you look down underneath that, you're going to see K85.90, K85.91, or K85.92. You have to use one of those codes because they're more specific. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so which one of these diagnosis codes would fit with this scenario?
590.
590.
91.91.
It's gonna be K85.90 because of one word, without.
Infection.
I thought we couldn't use like K9.9. Or is it because there's a 0 behind it?
Yeah, there's a 0 behind it.
Okay. So that one number made a difference in that whole section.
Right, yes. And
Okay.
the word without is what gives us our indication.
Okay. I was thinking we couldn't use the 0.90 because it said 0.9 on the top.
Yeah, no, the only one you can't use is the K85.9. And that
Okay.
has a red dot beside it, which we call stop signs. You
Alrighty.
cannot use that one, but you can use anything underneath.
Okay.
Makes sense? So that was okay, right? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't have my video on. I'm going to turn it back on. Not really all that scary, right? I know it seems scary at first, but it's really not scary, okay? So we're going to move on to our next one, and I'm going to share my screen again. K85.90. So yes, that was right. Next, it says patient was admitted with shortness of breath and edema due to decompression of congestive heart failure. Okay, a lot of words, right?
Mhm.
But what does this patient actually have?
Congestive
Congestive
heart.
heart failure.
He has congestive heart failure. So that's the diagnosis that we're going to be looking for. So in order to find this diagnosis, we need to look for failure. Why failure? Well, because that's actually what's happening is his heart is failing. So it's under failure. So we're going to go in our index to the S. And we're going to look for failure. It's on page 249. Then we're going to look till we see heart. And that is on the middle column, 249, middle column. And do you guys see heart?
Yes.
Then we're going to go to,
50.9.
hang on, then we're going to go to congestive.
Oh, Lord.
I know it's a little bit different getting used to the way this is set up and laid out. But you keep going under heart, you're going to go to congestive. Do you guys see it?
Okay, yes.
Does everybody see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what number do we have? Our letter combination and number I50.9. Is that what you guys got?
Yes.
Okay, so let's check it in our tabular. So we're going to go to our I's. 50.9. On page 901. So when you get to 901 and you look at I50.9, it says heart failure unspecified. But whenever you start reading underneath, you see it has congestive heart disease, congestive heart failure. You see that it has it listed underneath there. Make sense?
So there's no extra code. That's just on the description. So do you need to put an X behind the 9?
No.
No, you don't.
No.
Okay. How do you know when you have to do that?
Because it's going to indicate for you.
Oh, okay.
It will indicate it. Oh goodness, placeholder. I will look for one of those, Melissa, and get back. I'm trying to, on the spot. Of course, normally I would just have one popped in my head, but after this morning, I can't seem to get my life together. I'm trying to remember the symbol. Let's do that after. Let's finish these up and then we'll do that after.
Okay.
So you guys understand I50.9 was not scary at all, right? I promise it's not scary. I know y'all think it's scary. It may be a little bit different way of looking at things, but we're flexible. We can look at things differently. Okay, let's go to the next one. I50.9. Okay. Patient was discharged with a diagnosis of probable myocardial infarction. Okay, what did we just talk about? Usually they don't discharge with a probable. There are certain instances where they may. Myocardial infarction sometimes are so minor they can't tell, but they think that that's what they've had. So you just kind of gonna have to kind of roll with that. So I'm gonna go back again. So myocardial is the type of infarction.
Says I21.9.
Okay, Melissa, hang on. Let's let them look, and then we're going to see if everybody understands how to get there and where they're going. Kedra, is it very hard or very scary? Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, because I've been trying to do my assignments, but I'm just clueless trying to, because I'm
Well,
still trying to get the hang of the CPT code. So,
ICD-10, yeah. Well,
yeah, and now,
yeah, like I was telling the ladies a while ago, we're only in this chapter for a minute. I know that that's frustrating. So we're just barely sticking our toe in. So I don't want you to get real bogged down. That's the reason why I'm going through the test to make sure that you understand. Because when we wrap back around, we're really going to get really heavy into it, okay?
okay.
Okay, so who got I21.9?
I think I found it, but it's at the bottom of the page, and I don't see any codes for it. And then when I go on the next page, it says myocardiopathy. So I guess that's the.
Page 890.
Thank you.
So 890 is what?
Yeah, I was trying to find it in the index. But like
Okay,
I said, I see it
okay.
at the bottom.
Okay, well, let's see. I went to Infarction.
Okay, see, I went to myocardia. Cardio.
In the index, it's on page 299.
Thank you.
It's on 299 and it's in that first column. It says myocardium, myocardial acute,
Cardio. Yes,
I21.9.
okay, I see it.
Now remember, it's the same thing with the ICD-10 as the CPT book. If you're looking up something and it doesn't seem, it's not catching right, then pick another word. Okay, now guys, we're gonna need 2 diagnoses on this one, okay? The only thing that means is we're looking up 2 different things. It's not hard. Let's pick out what we need to look up. Patient was discharged with severe diarrhea. The physician documents that the discharge diagnosis as gastroenteritis versus food poisoning. So what would you think would be worse? Gastroenteritis, which is just an inflammation of your gastric system, or food poisoning?
Food poisoning.
Poisoning.
Right. Anything that has poisoning attached to it is going to go first. So how do you look up food poisoning? What do you think you're going to go to?
Poisoning?
Poisoning, right. Now, once you get to poisoning on page 387, I am going to lead you where you need to go because it's very, it's a little bit hard to understand because it doesn't tell us this, but it doesn't really say, well, it does say food. You see food halfway down on 387 on the last row, but then you start looking at bacterial due to salmonella. It's going to be noxious or naturally toxic.
It has that G word under it, so why wouldn't we use A02.0? Or is it because they're separate?
Okay, I guess say that again, Melanie.
Under where it says food, if you keep going, it says, oh, okay, it says salmonella. Never mind. I
Yeah,
didn't read that.
we're looking for noxious or naturally toxic.
Why does it say with gastroenteritis at the bottom? It says poisoning. If you go down, it says with as A02.0.
That's what I saw. It's because it's under the salmonella. And not,
Yeah, that's under salmonella.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I was having a cross-eyed moment. I couldn't see what y'all were talking about, and I just saw it. So we're going to go with the noxious or naturally toxic, which is the T62.9, and you see that red dot? That's telling you that you can't just use code T62.9. We're going to have to find another number to go behind that when we look for more, to make it more specific. So let's go to T62.9. On page 1492. Melissa, you're going to get to use your placeholder. I knew I had one on here. I just couldn't see it at the time. So on 1492, we know we can't use just T62.9. We have to have more specific numbers attached to it. So let's see. 91, that says accidental. There was no indication that this was accidental. Then we have intentional. There's nothing that says it's intentional. Then 93 says assault. Nowhere does it say assault. And then T62.94 says undetermined. So what do you guys think we would need to use?
T62.94. Excuse me.
Yes, 0.94. Okay, now do you see that red X beside it with the stop
Yes.
sign? That means you have to have your placeholder. You need a placeholder. Underneath, do you see the little purple box under T63? It says A, initial encounter, D, subsequent encounter, S, sequela. Don't even worry about sequela. We'll get into that another time. But this is going to be, we're going to use this as an initial encounter because it doesn't tell us anything else, right? Did you guys watch the lecture about your seventh character?
So it's going to be T6294A. Is that
No,
no? Okay.
because your A has to be the seventh character.
Okay.
So it would have to be T62.94. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be T62.94XA.
Okay.
Your placeholder is going to, like if we just say we were using T62.9. We would have to have, you know, more than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'd have to have 2 X's. Okay, I know that probably, I'm going to have to look at y'all. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
When you have
when
to put,
because it's got to be documented on the system, right? The system needs that placeholder for the work.
right, you have to have the placeholder, which is on page 1492. It says initial encounter or subsequent encounter. That's the only two we're going to deal with right now. What does initial encounter means? The first encounter. Subsequent encounter means after the first encounter. You don't use these for everything. You only use these a little bit, okay? So Keedra's looking at me like, Miss Marsha, honestly. Bear with me.
Going on.
I know that this is really a lot, but remember, we're going through these together. So when you get your test, you're going to remember, you're going to know. And when we wrap back around, I promise you, it's going to be very in-depth and very detailed. But this is a chapter that we have to get through, right? So I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we get through it without gray hair. or screaming and yelling and throwing our books out the window. So, all right. So our poisoning CPT code, diagnosis code is T62.94XA. All right, so that's one y'all are gonna have to knock the CPT out of me. Give it another ICD-10 code. I don't know what I've done here. Hang on, y'all. All right. Goodness. Operator troubles. All right, so we got our food poisoning. Now what do we have left? Gastroenteritis. So what do you think we need to look up? Gastroenteritis. Right. Go to the G's. This one's going to be easy.
I have it on page 270, but it's like a lot. Will we go by food poisoning?
Okay, so you look at gastroenteritis. The very first word, you see where it's in red, gastroenteritis, acute, chronic, non-infectious, see also enteritis, but then it says K52.9.
Yes.
So why don't we start with, if you go down and you look due to food poisoning or whatever, you're going to say, it's going to say C, intoxication. You don't want to go through all of that.
Okay.
They didn't say that he has gastritis due to food poisoning. They just don't know.
Okay.
So gastroenteritis is just going to be on its own. So let's look at K52.9. It's on page 972. So did y'all get K52.9?
Yes, ma'am.
So our answer is going to be T62.94XA and K52.9. Okay. I'm going to show you the next one, but this is what we're going to do, okay? The next one has 3 diagnosis codes, but instead of us looking up all 3, I'm going to have Miss Elise and Miss Kedra. I'm going to have you, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to look up. I'm going to have Miss Melissa look up the other one, and then I'm going to have Melanie and Tiara look up the other one. I'm going to show you the scenario, and then I'm going to tell you what I want each of you to look up, okay? And then I'm going to tell you how to get there. Okay, listen to me. I put this on the test, but if you just put one diagnosis code and it's right, guess what I'm going to do? Check. If you get in the vicinity, you understand what I mean? I just want y'all to get your feet wet. I see the stress in some of your faces. I don't want you to be stressed. Everybody out there that's listening to this later, don't be stressed. I promise we're just barely skimming over. All right, so here we go. I had to come back and look at y'all before I showed you the last one, right? Because I was concerned. Okay, the patient is admitted for a lobectomy for cancer of the lung. Miss Elise and Kedra, you're going to look up cancer of the lung. You're going to go to cancer, then lung. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Melissa, the patient was noted to be wheezing, so the surgery was canceled because of exacerbation of the patient's COPD. Melissa, you're going to look up COPD. It's under disease, pulmonary, then exacerbation. Disease, pulmonary, exacerbation. All right, Melissa, I'm sorry, Melanie and Tiara, the surgery was canceled. You're going to be looking up canceled procedure, then contraindication. So Miss Elise and Kedra, it's cancer, then lung. Melissa, it's disease, then pulmonary, then exacerbation. Tiara and Melanie, canceled procedure, then contraindication.
Mhm.
Okay, I found mine.
Okay, look at the screen. Is that what you got?
Yes. Now, excuse me, we have a red dot on side of our code.
The C34.90?
Yes, ma'am.
Good catch. Yeah, I was trying to trick you. I was going to see if you were going to notice. So let's take a look. What do we need to look at? C34.9. Okay, C34.9, you have a red dot, but C34.90, you don't have a dot. I was waiting to see who was going to stop at that C3 4.9. Guys, I've done it so many times. I've had to learn my lesson. I have to double check.
I have to leave the meetings right now, just letting you know.
Okay, have a good
But
afternoon.
I'll finish watching it later.
Yep. All right. Well, nice to see you.
Okay,
Have a
bye.
good day. Bye. So, Tiara and Melanie, did you get your code?
Yes, ma'am.
How about you, Melanie? Were you able to?
I'm still looking through the numbers. The numbers
Okay.
throw me. I have to get used to reading this book.
Okay. Miss Kedra, you got your cancer code?
Yes, ma'am.
How about you, Miss Elise? Did you get your cancer code?
Yeah, but I'm looking at it and under the C3 4.9, it says to go for category 3 4.9. Cpt Code, you have to go under something else.
No, look on page 690.
That's where I'm at.
C3 4.9. Don't look at that orange part up there. That's not for
Okay.
it. It's going to be C3 4.90, malignant neoplasm of unspecified part of the unspecified bronchus or lung.
Okay.
So that is. Yeah, that orange is saying something else. Melanie, did you find your code?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
My eyes weren't focusing on the numbers. There was too many numbers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to tell you that COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Anytime that you have something that says disease in ICD-10, you're going to look it up under disease. You can look, sometimes you can get it, but we're going to get more into that later. And then I wanted to tell you what contraindication means. It's a specific situation in which a drug, procedure, or surgery should not be used because it may be harmful to the person. So in our scenario, we stopped that procedure. See if I can get it to do that. The patient was wheezing, so they stopped the surgery. They canceled it. So your answers for this scenario is C3 4.90 and J 4.1 and Z 53.09. Cancer, COPD, cancellation of the surgery. Okay, does anybody feel a little bit better?